Welcome to Home with Simone. My name is Simone, and a huge thank you to each and every single one of you that support my channel, whether new or existing subscribers. Today's video is a DIY on the planter that I have for my olive tree. I got the planter from Walmart. It was under $15, and I just couldn't find one that I really wanted. So I decided I'm going to take what I envisioned and make it a reality. And to do that, I used 2 Nike boxes and the planter that I already purchased. This DIY is something that I've been longing to do for a while. I just needed a good reason, and this was as good of a reason as I can get. I don't like making things I have no use for or just making things for the sake of it. So I was really happy that this is part of my home decor, and it's something that I will be using for a long time to come. Easiest DIY. First, you get 2 boxes. My son, just for context of the size of the box, he wears size 13 shoes. So I have 2 size 13 Nike boxes, and I'm just rolling it against the edge of my counter to make the box a lot more flexible, because I do need to be able to manipulate it to fit into the top part of my planter. I'm using hot glue because I wanted this to stick and have an immediate dry. You can use crazy glue if that's what you prefer, or you can even use tape. For me, I just feel more comfortable using the hot glue. Again, I wanted this to dry really well, really quickly, because I wanted to get this project done in a short period of time, which I didn't get done, by the way. This took almost 4 days to complete. But before we get to why it took that long, let's go ahead and see how it looks now that I've attached the box. So these are the 2 boxes. I needed to see just how tall I wanted the planter to be. So I put my olive tree in it, and I just kind of eyeballed where the approximate spot that I wanted it to go up into, and I just cut that off. It's not perfect because when I bring it back into the kitchen, I'm going to make it a lot straighter by using painter's tape. I use painter's tape for everything. It's a great tape to use for marking. It doesn't peel paint. It doesn't normally take off surfaces because it's made to go on and come off with ease. So this is always my go-to, even when hanging pictures, things like that. I know it still looks crooked, but that's because the box went on a bit crooked. It doesn't matter because we're covering it with my spackle. I like this particular spackle for the plain fact that it goes on pink, and when it dries white. This is a good indicator to me that it's dried. The spackle, however, gets very heavy when you're using just your bare hands and the spackle alone. So I was dipping my fingers into water periodically to keep it a little bit wet, so that to keep it wet so that I'm able to move around and use it without discomfort. This is what it looks like when it's completely wet. This is what it looks like when it is almost fully dried. There was a little bit of pink areas, but overall I was okay with it. I did notice though, the areas that I used the glue, so where I joined it, there was a bit of cracking. And of course I didn't do the base of it because I needed something to hold onto when I moved it over to the table from the kitchen in order for it to dry. But if we look a little bit closer, you might see, I don't know if it's picking up on camera, there are faint pink areas. Again, an indication this is not completely dried, but I'm liking it. I think you can actually use it just the way it is. These are the cracks I was talking about, but they don't really matter because I'm going to be draping it. If you were going to stop the project here and just use it like this, I would go in after and fill these cracks because they're not peeling or flaking off, which was a big fear of mine. I thought I didn't use anything bonding. I didn't sand the base. I didn't do anything to rough it. And I thought, oh, if this cracks off when I touch it tomorrow, I would be so disappointed. But it didn't. They were just cracks where the glue was. So I was okay with that. And this is what it's given right now, the halfway point. Again, you can stop it here, you can paint it, but I wanted to drape it to match that picture. This is a drape sheet that I use. I like this one for these particular types of projects because of how the material feels and how easy it is for me to use it and shape it. It is a drip cloth, so it does have like a plastic film on the back of it, and then on one side it's a little bit fuzzy. The plastic film would go on the floor, the fuzzy part would go to the top to absorb anything that leaks. The plastic film stops it from leaking through to the floor. The biggest mistake you can make with this is trying to take off the plastic this way. It takes way too much time and you will get very frustrated. So I suggest that you do it the alternative way, which is what I do. I literally just hold it. I make sure I'm looking at the right side and then I pull it. Once you stretch it, it creates a bit of a pocket in the back where the plastic attaches to that soft part. And I just hold it and I pull it like I'm opening a bag of chips. And once I do that, I'm able to go ahead and make a hole in it and then start ripping it off. The ends of this is really, really secure. You're not going to be able to peel it from the end. So you're working from maybe about 2 inches in, and then you're able to peel it off. And it's easy to peel off, to tell you the truth. Now, this drip cloth is really, really large. So what I do is I peel it off about half of it, cut it because I'm going to use the other half to protect my floor when I am doing the draping. But yeah, you just finish peeling it off. And then once you get all of the middle part off, the best way to cut the ends is, or to remove the ends, is you cut it down a bit with the scissors, hold the 2 sides that you've cut, and you pull it. It's going to give you a perfect tear right down. And in that way, it helps you to keep as much shape as you can with the drip cloth, because it does lose a little bit of shape if you're just pulling it. Again, there's nothing really keeping it firm together because you're removing that plastic part. So again, just for the end, you just peel off as much as you can, and then you cut it. And then you're going to hold either side, so the part that's cut and the other side, and just give it a good pull, and it tears really, really easy. At this point, it's optional if you want to stop here, or if you want to just get that spray paint that looks like ceramic and spray it to add a little bit more definition. I was just checking to make sure everything was good for me to move and try to figure out how I'm going to place it to drape it. But put that thought on the back burner. Now I'm preparing my drape cloth. I just used a clear glue and I'm mixing it with a little bit of water, making sure that the cloth is completely saturated. Once the drip cloth is saturated, you get your dry decks. This is the one I just love, again, because it's pink when wet, white when dry, but there's so many different kinds you can get. I've even seen people use powder ones and mix it themselves. And it's just a matter of applying it to the already saturated fabric. I grabbed a handful and I just rubbed it onto the fabric, and I kept working my way through the fabric until the entire thing was completely pink. If you want a smooth finish, just make sure that you're really rubbing in the spackle so that there's no clumps left. After spreading the other half of the drape cloth on the floor, I went to work. I squeezed out as much of the water as I can from the fabric. Notice I didn't cut the middle of it. I just pushed it down into my planter. I did that on purpose. I needed the weight of that to be there. You'll also notice that when I cut the extra fabric, I just throw it into the middle of that. Again, in order for me to be able to get the pleating, I needed to have something that's going to pull it. So I had the extra fabric in the middle of that, creating weight. And then I just manipulated my fabric in order to create the pleats that I wanted. And I just kept going around and around until I was satisfied with the way it looks. Then that same mixture that I collected, I went in between the pleating and I applied some extra of the mixture in order to create more support. I needed to ensure that these flat parts were going to be securely connected to the planter. So I wanted it to really stick down, and I didn't want, as soon as I pick it up, the whole thing just flakes off. This took the most time. I was actually watching a movie while I did it, and I just went in between each individual pleat, making sure to apply the right amount of pressure. You don't want to jab it in, but you don't want to be too gentle, because the whole point of this step is to ensure that there is as much support as possible with the fabric being stuck to the planter. I was nervous because it is cardboard on the top, but as you can see, it kept its shape, and this is what it looked like while it was drying. I woke up the next morning, guys. It's completely dried. Well, not completely dried, but 85% dried. So now I can move on to the next step. Head to the dollar store and pick up some supplies. I needed more moss, and I'm happy I went because this green moss is the perfect color. This is what I've wanted. I have another one at home that I got. This is the one I have at home, the sweet moss. And I find that it's too green. I needed something that was a little bit deeper. So I picked up 5 of these packets of moss. And then I wanted something to add a little extra support because my olive tree leans a bit. It is a little top heavy. So I grabbed this little foam disc. The girls are just as excited as I am with this step. This is the final step. I used no glue. This is the only time that I cut the middle fabric, and I'm not cutting it low. Again, I don't want to give this any sort of chance to lift or pull. So once I put the tree in, I stuffed some of the wrapping that you get from HomeSense when you buy breakable items. I've been collecting, and then I just took the foam disc, and I know there's a better name for that, but I don't know. I just called it a foam disc, and I cut it in half, and this fit perfect in the bottom of the planter. And it helped me to secure my tree. So now it's nice and straight. And here's all of that wrapping that I collected over the last couple of days from getting purchases from HomeSense in order for me to be able to use for the tree. I didn't want to have a bunch of books. I didn't want to have a bunch of boxes and stuff. But you can really stuff this with anything. I've seen people stuff it with old clothes, with blankets, whatever you have. The point is to make it as budget friendly as possible. It didn't cost me anything more to get this from HomeSense because I was buying these breakable items anyways. And I thought, oh, great. If I just save this instead of throwing it in the garbage, it's going to work. Here's the moss I already have, the one that's too green. And here's the new one. This part is so exciting. I took the moss, the brighter green one that I'm not really a huge fan of. But it came in handy because that's actually flat. And I was able to just put it right around the base of the tree instead of having to cut a box and put it there. And then I just filled around it with the other moss. The other moss has a bit of a smell. I mean, I guess it's fair to say it smells mossy. But after a while, it went away. I think it was just packaging. I'm really happy with the way it came out. And I even like that the moss doesn't lie flat. There's a bit of dimension, a bit of texture happening in there. Height differences, and makes it look really natural. I love taking what I have in my head, in my mind, and bringing it to life. It is so exciting. And I love sharing these sort of DIYs with you guys. So if you enjoyed this, don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. I do have a complete living room tour coming up soon. So if you're interested in seeing that, stay tuned for the very next video.